Well, it's
Welcome, welcome, welcome,
what does that
everybody, to
mean?
another
The
Sunday of When
Wi-Fi.
Black Women Gather. This is a very special Sunday when we get to honor our elder, our sister activist, who's been here with us for 90 years. Happy birthday, Sister Sonia.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Happy
It's a joy
birthday.
to be here, right?
This
And I'm
is I'm
sorry this
so
thing is not. I don't know what's. I mean, I don't know what happened with this machine, but it's always very clear and it works. I don't know why. Can you hear me clearly at all?
can hear you. We
Yes,
can hear
I
hear
don't
you.
hear anything now.
That's
Hear you.
what's
Oh,
important. We
okay.
can hear you. And I
Right.
just want to say thank you so much for agreeing to gather with us because I know that you are in high demand. And for you to agree to come to this circle is very important and appreciated here. So we're just going to have a good conversation. We have some folks who you know who are going to pay tribute to you, some that you don't know, but I know who are poets who admire you. And we're going to talk with you because we want to hear from you. Like, 90 years on this earth, like, what has it been? Is it being an elder everything you thought it would be? What's the longevity in your family? When you think back to your younger Sonia, did you think you'd be here this long? And what was your path getting here? So we're going to talk to you about all of that. But there's a few folks here who want to pay tribute to you. I'm going to, first of all, is there anything that you want to open up with us and let us know today?
Well, it's an honor to be here, and I think that I turned 90 September 9th, 9/9. Uh, what you do when you're in a movement, you really don't count the years and the days at all, right? They pass, and you look up and someone says, "Oh, it's your birthday." You say, "Well, we don't have time to celebrate it." This time we did have time, which was a joy. And also, some years ago, uh, um, in Brooklyn, um, our dear sister there who runs one of the programs there, uh, she and her sons opened up and they did a celebration of, I think it's my 80th birthday. But I think that it's probably wiser not to even, I mean, it comes up, you say, well, good, that's 70, good, that's 50, good, that's 40, good, that's 30. And what we've had to do on while we're a bit on this earth has been to say, we usually didn't have birthday parties or celebrations. So the thing at the Schomburg was really just, I mean, unbelievable. I just wanted to to thank, the head of the Schomburg now, Sister Joy Bibbins, who is now there, replacing two or three people who have come, from the very beginning. But at the program, it was Sister Joy, Sister Janice Adams, and also Joanne Gavin. They kind of got the celebration together, along with Brother Kevin Matthews, who works for the Schomburg, and numerous people. What was so nice, my sisters and my brothers, was that when we got there, there was a big celebration. If you've ever, have you ever been to has everyone been to the Schomburg? Come
That's where I
on, say
met you.
yes, people.
Yes,
And if you haven't
yes.
been to the Schomburg, I'm gonna meet you. I'm gonna have you meet me one day outside the Schomburg and go in. That is a magical place. I encountered the Schomburg, when I graduated from Hunter. I was what 19 and a half actually, um and then I had to wait to March and January, right? But there I was in a place that was like uh, I had learned so much about, and until that time that we marched, I was in the Schomburg as much as I could be in the Schomburg, and I'd like to just tell a story that the sister who was ahead of the Schomburg at the time, um, I kind of like went to get a job downtown. My father said, "Well, okay, you won't start grad school until September. So you got to get a job. So I was answering all these ads, and I go down and you walk in and you have your heels on, your suit on, your hat on, and you know, you're looking really good, whatever, etc. And they say the job is taken. And so you back out the door. And I kept saying, I'm not going to have a job. So I answered an ad in the newspaper that said they needed someone to write about them. They needed a writer for the firm. And I said, oh, I'm going to try for that. My dad said, well, you don't waste your time, right? And I sent out this ad. And for some of y'all who might be too young, a telegram came to my house on Saturday morning that said, report to work on Monday at 9 a.m. And I went around the house saying to my dad, ooh, 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 guess who got a job being the writer for a big firm? And my father kept this very dry face, and uh-huh. And I went out in my blue suit, my blue hat, I must have blue everything except my face at that point. I mean, I wasn't blue, you know what I mean? I did not lean back and said, oh, when they said, no, we don't want you, you know, I didn't turn all, you know, I was singing the blues at some point afterwards. I felt like I was living in the blues. But there I was at 8:30, waiting outside the office, and this woman comes clicking down the hallway, secretary. And she said, yes, can I help you? And I went in my purse and took out the telegram and said, here. And she looked at the telegram and she looked at me. She looked at the telegram again and she looked at me. And she looked at it a third time and she looked at me and she just stood there and she handed it back and said, come in, have a seat. And I came in and sat down and took off. I had some kind of coat on and I sat there, and some guy at about 1:45 came out one of the back doors and said, yes, can I help you? And I handed him the telegram, and he looked at the telegram and he looked up at me. He looked at the telegram and he looked back. He leaned back on his eyes and he looked at me again. And he looked at the telegram and he said, I'm sorry, the job is taken. So I said, oops, I got it. I got here too early. It said, come at 9 a.m. I'm going to go outside the door. It's 1:45 now. And at 9 a.m., will, you know, make my entrance again. And that'd be fine. He said, lady, I said the job was taken. I said, how can it be taken when I was told to report to work at 9 o'clock and I get here at 8:30? And he looked at me, he shrugged his shoulders, he did everything you could possibly do to really be mad at someone. And he went out one of the other doors and slammed the door. And I remember getting my coat and going out. I had tears in my eyes, and I'm going to the subway. And I know I came back in and said, I'm going to report you to the Urban League, you know, for discrimination. And the guy went like, lady, you know, who cares, right? I got on the train. If you know New York City, at 96th Street, you got to get off and stay on the west side. That's where I was going to the Urban League. But I was sitting there crying and looking out the window, and I stayed on the train, and I exited on 135th on Lenox Avenue. And I crossed Lenox Avenue, and there was this thin brown building and a guy outside doing a quick smoke. And I said, sir, could you tell me what is the Schomburg? He said, oh, go inside, sign in, go inside, you'll find out. So I signed in, went up these steps and came into this big room where there were nothing but books piled high. And all of these Black and African men were sitting around the table, just sitting around the table with books stacked high. And there was a glass door, and I went and knocked on the glass door, and the door opened, and our dear sister said, yes, can I help you? I said, I told her my name, and she said, oh, she said, this is the Schomburg Library. This library has books only by and about Negroes. And with my fresh mouth, I said, there must not be many books in here, huh? She never let me forget that. Forgive me for that. Every time I brought my classes from Amherst College, wherever I was teaching, we came to the Schomburg, right? You know, and we got in there, and she would lean back on her eyes and search for me, and I would disappear in the back of the room, and she would tell that story. And the students would turn around and shake their hand at me and say, oh, Professor Sanchez, we got something on you. I said, yeah. There I was at the Schomburg. I went in that place, and I saw that day she brought 4 books, 3 or 4 books, Souls of Black Folk, um, Up from Slavery, and the third one, Their Eyes Were Watching God. And I took Their Eyes Were Watching God on top and opened it. And you all know, if you've ever seen that book, you know that it's Black English, right? It
Yes.
is spoken in that, it's written and spoken in that. So the difficulty at first is that even though sometimes we spoke Black English amongst ourselves, reading it was a whole other different thing. And I remember looking at it, putting my head down and raising my head again. And as I got maybe to about a quarter of the book, I put my head down and started to cry. And I got up and knocked on the door, and I said, "What's your name again?" And she said, "Miss Hyman." She used to tell this all the time, right? She told her name, and she said, "Oh, my dear," she said, "now you just sit down. I'm going to bring you books that would just magnify your entire life." And I tell you, she did not lie to me at all. I sat down and she brought those three books, and I sat there and began to read those books. That first book, Their Eyes Were Watching God. And the whole time I was reading and I was crying at the same time. And all these scholars were there, and they kept looking up, and they were all men. I was the only female sitting there, right? And they kept looking at me, wondering, what is this young woman doing here, disrupting our study, whatever. And I finally got up and knocked on the door again. And I said very gently, I said, "Oh, my dear sister," I said, "could you possibly tell me, um, um, you know, um, how could I have graduated from Hunter College, getting ready to go into grad school in September, and I've never come across these books?" She said, "Oh, don't you worry," she said, "I'm going to give you lots and lots of books." And for the rest of that semester, instead of looking for a job, I came to a place called the Schomburg, and they fed me book after book after book after book after book. And when I said I got to prepare to teach this, I think I was high school or junior high school, I forget now which. And she sent me to Mr. Michaud, right, on 125th Street, and the other brother who had a bookstore there, and they each gave me two bags. We had no shopping bags, two grocery bags full of books. And I sat down for the rest of the summer and read every bloody book from the Caribbean, from African American literature. And I knew then that I was ready, to go out and face the world, because it put on, you put on this armor, whatever, and you went out and someone says something that you knew was stupid. You didn't say it was stupid, but you said, "No, let me correct you." You know what I'm saying? There we were, my generation people going to places like the Schomburg, going in to study whatever, and we entered it within that arena, um, uh, to just at some point, not only to find ourselves, but to rediscover the language that we never had in high school or in college at all. We never read a Black book anywhere on the planet Earth, coming out of Hunter College. And there I was at that particular time. I just wanted to say that because that is the Schomburg, a place for you to come in and to ask for some books and to sit down and read those books, right? And to understand truly at some particular point what it was, what it has meant. That Hurston history we never got, but because there was a Schomburg, right? Because there were men and women working in the Schomburg, I was able at some point then to regroup and to begin to look up and see what and who I was at some particular point. And at that time, the disturbance in the South was beginning, to move. And I would like not go to class. I would read the books, come and take the exams, and just wait. And at the end of the year, the 4 years there, about 3.5 years there, they sent a letter home to my father saying that that I had all the grades, but I didn't have the credits because I had cut. And I would not go to class because, to sit and listen to someone say something that I knew was not working for me at that time. But I did pass the exams. And so finally they said, "Would you please write on a piece of paper as to why you think you lost your credits," right? And I think I filled out this paper, and then I asked for a red pencil, and they gave me a red pencil. And the reason that you lost this credit, your credit, and I wrote discrimination and read all the way down the line. They gave me my credit. They said, Lord, 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 we need to get her out of here now, whatever. And I got out. I just thought that would tell you about the Schomburg, about the people who work there, about the men and women, who set me down and fed me book after book after book. And at the end of the summer, they gave me books for two Black African-American bookstores in Harlem at 125th Street. And what they did is that they sent me these books, Mr. Michaud, one of the bookstores, and nothing but books, these African-American books, right? And I remember having to take a cab home. I could ill afford it at the time because I couldn't carry the paperback books that I had. But the rest of the summer, I read every book there, and I was ready to go out in the world and teach. Am I going too long?
Somebody needs
You
a
can't
mute, but
hear?
go ahead. Go ahead. That's a fascinating story. I am impressed, one, that you're able to recall it, right? Because if you asked me what I did 10 minutes ago, much less
Oh,
10
there's
years,
some things you
I
never forget.
I'm sorry.
There's some things you never forget, like the first time someone calls you a nigger, as they did in the South, right? Never forget that. You can tell people what that's about, how you felt, whatever, etc. And that I remember because I had never been in a library that vast, that large. I had never seen long tables with nothing but Black men sitting there with books stacked high. I was the only female that they inched me into, and I looked around and I began that journey that says simply, we are more than what these people have said. We must have been in books someplace along the way. And they fed me the books. There I was. I saw me, and I, it helped you tell you at some point, yeah, be this human being. Oh, I'm so sorry. This thing is acting up.
No,
Right,
you're fine. You're
you can't
fine.
hear
We're
me, but
hearing you. We are hearing you clearly. It's okay. Don't worry. The
Phyllis
other thing
Thornton,
that,
please mute. Phyllis Thornton, please mute.
oh, is that what it is?
Yeah,
Okay. The
Phyllis
other thing
Thornton,
that
please
came
mute.
to mind when you were talking, Sister Sonia, was the fact that I don't know what year you're speaking of, but here we are in 2024, where our history, there are efforts to erase our history. And I came along many years after you, and I also went through, a total academic experience absent this type of teaching and learning. And that to me is just so pathetic. Like, what is your thought? I mean, I'm sure what are your thoughts on that?
Right.
What are your thoughts on this erasure of our history that's happening right now?
My dear sister, if we jumped out there and said, by golly, by gee, we didn't say by golly, by gee, we had other words that we threw at people, but we said, hey, we deserve this. We got out and fought for it. I mean, people put our names on records, that's why to this day, some people won't even speak to some of us because they thought, oh, we were too tough, or people actually say, why do you come out with all this racial stuff, whatever. And you say, what racial stuff? Because I want to read a book about someone Black, because I want to read a book about a Black woman, a Black man, a Black children, whatever, etc. And we fought for that. I tell you, it's so hard sometimes when you talk to some of the younger people that they have this, but they had this at a great cost to many of us. I got banned out of a place called New York City. I'm from New York City, people, and I traveled every bloody place to keep a job in a university, um, with your children, right? Um, and to this day, I can't talk about it without, feeling that I'm going to break down and cry because what we did is we prepared the universities for the younger children, the younger people coming in. They didn't have to do that. when they came in, we had Black studies waiting for them. Isn't that something? Black professors waiting to teach them, whatever, willing to fight for them, willing to get up, and to challenge a university. And that's what we did. We challenged. And to this day, a lot of people won't speak to us because we did this, because we disrupted, the status quo of teaching, of learning, whatever. But we fought to have these Black writers in these schools. That's what we did. I walked into one of the offices, one of the people in the head of one of the departments, I won't say what it was, and he said, "Oh, and I had a natural. It had gotten bigger when we moved to California because nobody in San Francisco would get to cut our hair." So the natural went bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, right? And so every place you go, people will just look at your natural instead of you. I mean, we weren't trying to set a style. We were just trying to get our hair cut. And I actually went to barbers, and they wouldn't touch my hair at all. They wouldn't cut my hair until a young woman who ended up being a poet came from LA. And she was the one barber who went around cutting our hair, styling our hair. But let me tell you something. I walked into the class the first day, and people were sitting on the floor, sharing chairs, sitting on blackboards. You got to hear this, whatever, And I said, yes. I said, why don't you go out to another room and pull some chairs in? And the people came in with notebooks, and I started to talk. I read a litany of names, whatever. And as I read the names, the brothers and sisters in that classroom started to cry. I started to cry, because they had to know the fight that we had to give them, to take, to get something called Black Studies on the curriculum there at San Francisco State, the first Black Studies program in America, whatever. And it was a struggle, it was a fight, make no mistake about it, but it began to spread all over a place called America. And then all of a sudden, people who were white, people who were Asian, people who were Latino, start knocking on your door and said, "Can I take your class also too? I'm told that you're learning about," and sometimes you come up with other people also, Latino writers or whatever, etc. And they came in for the first time in a place called America, right? We had really what should have been so many years ago, this thing called literature, this thing called English, and we called it Black English at that time, right? This thing that, in a sense, would make you feel like you walked into a classroom and you knew you were bad. No one had to tell you, you were bad. You didn't have to imagine it in a mirror. You walked in because you knew you were bad. And then other students began to gravitate towards these students. Like, is it true that there's a Black writer by the name of Du Bois? I mean, they actually stopped these students on the streets of California. And this is where we were. And because we were teaching it, we were asked to come out, to these little schools down the peninsula, right? And we went in and we would get on stage, this Baraka, Larry, all of us would get on stages together and we read this poetry, and we really took no prisoners, my dear people. Okay, we were out there doing what we should have been doing, and the few Blacks who were in these schools, maybe 20 at most, would stand up and stamp their feet, and the rest of the students, some would stand up and clap, but they had never heard this at all, about Du Bois, about the people, who in a very real, about Paul Robeson, we taught them the literature they should have gotten as Americans in a place called America. And what a joy it was to bring this into the university, to bring into classrooms, and to have people who were white, Black, green, purple, blue, brown, whatever, knocking on your door, said, "Please let me in your class. I got to go and learn about this. I hear you have some Latino writers in here also too." Oh yes, this is the beginning. This is the beginning of real education that we never had at all. But we studied it, we learned it, and the Schomburg was a crucial place for us to live in. I used to ask them, could I sleep in there at night? I mean, I really did, because I didn't want to go home. I had books piled up. And they want you to, they would let you leave the books there. Sometimes they put the books away. I said, don't touch it. I'm right here, because you were reading at the time, before we went to California, but at the same time, we were teaching other classes. Do you know, San Francisco, the first semester, let us teach and did not give credit. No credit at all. But you know what happened? Because we had people standing in the hallways to take these classes. San Francisco State said, oh my God, we better at some point, get money from these people and give them credit. And there we began. What a beginning, my dear sisters and my dear brothers. What a beginning. What a way to look at the world. What a way to discover yourselves in books, knowing that indeed you are human, that you did contribute to world literature, not just Black literature, but world literature here in a place called America. And there we were. But to see grown men put their heads down with tears, they want people to see them crying, and they would raise their hand and said, I never knew this existed. I said, no, I know you don't, but you're going to know that and much more next semester also too. And that was the kind of, in quotes, revolution that America did not want, because once you would put all this information into these children's eyes, these young people's eyes and hands and throats, whatever, they walked into that classroom with a different gait, with a different walk, whatever, and they took that to the other classes also too. These young men and women, who began to learn that they did have a history in literature and in the arts, and in American, in the universities. And that's what we did. And it cost us a great deal, by the way, make no mistake about it. But it was
Absolutely.
I hope I
So
didn't
what
go
would
too
you,
long.
somebody, I don't see my friend on the call, but she had a really good question. Asking about your poetry obviously was activism. And there took some fearlessness to do it.
No, my
What would you say that looks like to,
poetry was about my poetry was
I'm sorry.
my poetry was about love and
Okay,
knowing
but so
who we
what I'm saying,
were,
I'm sorry.
whatever.
Yeah, let
But
me
because
back
it
that
was
up. But your poetry, you're saying that you were inspiring people to the work that you were doing, what you were learning, what you were teaching, you were inspiring young Black people to feel very confident and walk in a different way, which I'm sure made you a target in some
feel like human
perspectives,
beings. Right,
like human beings.
right.
Yeah.
All the
So
things
what
without people went off. Who- Go on.
so how would you what would you say that looks like today in today's poets? Is that the spoken word, or is what's comparable to the work that you all did?
Well, you must understand that these young people got this from what we were doing. Okay, all right. What we did is that we read the work of Sterling Brown and Gwendolyn Brooks, right, and all these other great poets, whatever. And then we also began to write in our own genre, in a sense. We picked up, but we learned. We learned that history. We learned about Du Bois. I mean, I read Souls of Black Folk and collapsed and cried, and so therefore, we had to understand at some particular point that there was a history of literature before we even got to Richard Wright, and all the other people who were writing at that, and Jimmy, brother Jimmy, who was writing at the same time. So this is what we did. My dear sister, what we did is that there was a number of African professors who came over to study at San Francisco State, and we asked them to come in and to talk about, in quotes, some of their literature that quite often was not even taught, in the schools, but that folk literature that they had. And then we came all the way in and began to talk about the early literature, like for instance, like the folklore things. I had one of the first classes on that. And one of the things was my old master said he was going to free me when he died. My own master is 35. I still ain't free. My own master said he gonna free me when he died. My own master is 45. I still ain't free. My own master said he gonna free me when he died. My own master is 55. I still ain't free. I guess I better help my old master die. People roared in that classroom, but that was the folklore that was there, written in books. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. And when I read it, the people said, "Whoa!" I mean, the classroom exploded. I said, that's part of the folklore that that we're bringing in before we get to the beginnings of of the literature. It's part of our literature or whatever. They thought at some point that probably all the people did was go, Lord. They might have done that too, but they did some of this very, what we would call today, hit stuff, stuff that was hitting home. I mean, that was amazing. When I read it for the first time in the library, I leaned back and laughed. I said, oh my God, look at here, look at here, look at here. Imagine this literature is there, has been there, and we didn't know, because what it was telling us that people resisted. There was resistance, and nowhere on this earth did we hear about resistance. And so therefore, this is the kind of motion and movement that why people don't want it. And so in these schools, whatever, one of the things that some of us pushed a great deal is that we said, you just can't say we got something now and think it's going to stay forever. You have people who do not want, anything that will teach Black, white, brown children, right? About a history of America and the world, right? And in that mix, you're going to see us doing some amazing things. You're going to see Latinos doing some amazing things, right? You're going to see whites doing some amazing things. You're going to see up in New England that Blacks and whites came together, in like a union to fight against the masters, who were like, in a sense, corrupting them on many levels, not paying them what they should have paid them. And what did they do? They brought up this thing called race to divide people, whatever. And we saw, the motion and movement of like race, like you are better, than those brown people, those Black people, there in America. But race has always been what I call the trump card. The trump card, what the trump card for America. And that trump card has been, about like, hey, these are these people who don't know anything, who are terrible, they're like young boys in the streets of in the park, and they would go out there and kill some child, some female, whatever, although it was not true. But we'll fight against that. I mean, what we came up against up north was not as bad as in the South, but the point was, in the schools of America, in the housing of America, in New York City, it could be equally as bad on many levels, and most especially in terms of employment. My sister, when someone tells me that they're cutting, not going to their Black lit class, or they're not going to this class, I stand in front of them and say, do you know that many of us got put out of universities? We couldn't teach because of what we were teaching. And you're not going to go to class? Huh? Right. Is that what you're going to do? Whatever. And you tell me you're bad? How are you bad? Tell me how bad you are. Because you got a mini dress on, is that bad? Or a long dress on, is that bad? Huh? Tell me about that. Huh? Or you got a natural now, is that bad? Imagine getting a natural in the 60s. And see what that would have gotten you. No job, at period. So I'm just saying, hey, this is a tough thing that we're up against. And we're not here, to deny you what you're thinking and what you want to be about, but you can't deny your history and your history as we move on. And it can't be the same history and history. Your history and history has got to move a little bit higher as you move here in a place called America, as you look out on this landscape that has been set out now in the schools of America, like, oh, let's not teach that book. That's my child might get a little upset about it. Upset about it. How do you think it was when they would open a book on history and there would be this little what they call pickaninny, one about it. Oh, boss, this is some good stuff, whatever. Why do you think we acted, how we felt? We sank underneath chairs and in those places, whatever. So don't tell me, get in my face and tell me, oh, this is too difficult for my child or our children to understand. Oh, yeah, they understand it. They're still living it. It's still in the schools in America. It's still with many of the teachers in America. Tell me about that. But what we are talking about is that the opportunity then to come in and learn about history and history that our children and all the children should be learning about in the schools here in America.
Absolutely.
Am I talking
Absolutely.
too much? Or
Yeah. No, not at all. We're
she said,
loving every word,
absolutely, yes.
loving every word of it. But let me stop for a minute
I
because
got
there
a
are
bad sense of
people.
I got a bad sense of humor, so I'll tease you, okay? I'm gonna write that down. The next time I talk to you on the telephone, absolutely, yes. You're talking too much, Professor Sanchez.
No, and let me just say that I respect you so much as an elder, and I appreciate that since you came. I think it was 2 years ago, maybe three, that you gathered with us. And let me just tell you all that I feel so honored that I have been able to call on Sister Sonia at my uh, good moments, weak moments, whatever, and she's always there for me. She gives me advice. She doesn't. When I told her I was moving
She
to
doesn't
Florida,
normally
she
get
says,
a bill at the end of the year.
"I'll
Don't
pay it.
go.
I'll pay it." But Sister Sonia, when I told you I was moving to Florida, what did you say to me?
I don't remember, but it's a combination of things, whatever. I just, I ask real questions. Do you have a good place to live? Do you really have a job? Whatever, do you know the kind of people you're going to be working with? Whatever, will that silence you? I mean, the regular questions you have
It
when
was
sometimes
smart
when you go
and
to a place like Florida at this particular
like
time,
Florida.
all kinds of things are happening, there with that governor down there.
So when it
Yeah.
did, when it started going south, she said, "Sister, we talked about that." She didn't say any "I told you so." But listen, so for a few minutes here, let's deviate for a minute. There are people here who want to pay tribute to you. And let me Chip, I know you have to leave. I know Anita has to leave. And who Kamika, are you available? Let me see. Kamika, are you here?
Sure.
Yeah.
Hi, Sonia. How are you?
Let me
Is
find
that
Kamika so I can.
I'm
Wait a
coming
minute.
up?
Yeah, you don't know. We share loved ones, Sister Sonia, you and I.
These are some of my
Let me
children
see.
that we taught
That's right. That's
way.
right.
I'm telling you.
Wait a minute.
And I bring
Kamika,
you
go. I'm
greetings.
trying
I
to.
just came back from I
Go ahead,
just
Kamika.
came
Keep
back
talking.
from Furious Flower with Joanne, Gavin, and Lauren, who did Furious Flower for us. So everybody brings you greetings. They brought your name up so many
Oh,
times.
thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
and as a small PR message, Sister Sonia is going to be at Temple University this coming Thursday from 2:30 to 4 at the Charles Library. So I just want to throw that out there to the group for those folks who are in or near Philadelphia. Did you want me to go ahead and read the poem?
Please. Please. I was just
Okay.
trying to find you to add you to the spotlight. There you are. Hi.
Okay, let's see if
Yay.
I could do
We hear
this.
you.
Um,
I
So
so
there's
remember,
people
can I
on
just
here,
say something?
Sister Sonia.
I remember her, this young person who came to a place called Temple University. I will never forget that, whatever, etc.
absolutely,
And
absolutely.
whew,
No, you go ahead. You
and
tell
look at
that story. Um,
no.
so this is a true story. I've written so many Sonia Sanchez poems because, she is a mentor to so many of us, and we love her dearly. We love you dearly. We wish you happy birthday and
I'll be
many,
back.
many more. Again, this is a true story. It's called Sister Sonia, Comfort Not Condemned. And it has a prologue or an epigraph, if you will, for the Black women in North Philly who died of AIDS in the 90s.
And could you tell them that we were at a place where you were there and we were like there meeting
Yes.
with these young people that nobody wanted to touch even.
Absolutely. It's all in the piece, but we were at Temple University and WHYY wanted to follow Sister Sonia around to talk about the epidemic. This is just after HIV/AIDS hit the Black community in the late 80s into the 90s. So again, comfort not condemn for Sister Sonia, for the Black women in North Philly who died of AIDS in the 90s. It started in the late 80s. By the 90s, alphabets in combination had become deadly, the first real plague into the 21st century. No balm in Gilead. HIV/AIDS thinning the herd, thinning the bodies, thinning the people, blood, bones, and skin. Artists, actors, marginalized, othered, Black, brown, gay, straight, boys, girls, and poor women, with few others to soften the blow or their demise. She was at a place called Temple. I, taxing brain power and body, older and returning, ain't no fool like an old graduate school fool trying to make a change. She was poet, professor, famous. I just becoming one. Talked myself into one of her classes as teaching assistant because graduate school on fellowship and their dime got to justify everything you do. Who knew? The TA took roles sometimes, but mostly helped her carry bags, backpack, bundles seemingly too numerous and too big per her size. Playing midwife, she toting papers, swaddling infant poems, one course at a time. Cross campus, class to class, modeling activists' wise instruction, eyes wide open with Goliath's surprise. This day, television cameras had come to follow her, wallow in sadness, qualify her latest work, marvel, and record. Said she, "My dear sisters, speaking to Black women recently diagnosed with AIDS, public television was trying to finagle and angle, get a handle on an epidemic. Like Jesus in the leper's den. Little big, big little parting a Black sea. I could see her right there in front of me, walking on water, wading in, poet, preaching, teaching through tears, shrugging off the negative. Crying and hugging women who had then just been given a death sentence, certain death, far too soon. They talked about loving the wrong man, shooting the wrong needle, hitting the wrong high. They talked about being afraid, feeling betrayed, craving a comforting touch, made denigrated and dismissed, fading away. They talked about family, shunning them. Full contamination gear, doctors and nurses afraid to come near, touch depraved, thinning from outside in, many with no family or kin to console in solace or usher them in to the final door. What's more, if not for comfort, compassion, love, what was supposed to be an hour turned to many more. So many stories, sentiment aplenty, scores of sorrows, emotions spent, standing at times, no let up in her giving, soul exhausted, sometimes sitting, modeling what serving the community really takes, looks like, makes the sacrifice it cost when it isn't always pretty. Then, by afternoon's end, like the tale of souls who swallowed the sun only to have light shined out from within, eyes, mouths, fingers, toes, surrounded seemingly and swallowed whole, she, instigated and recipient of a tearful collective group hug, a glad felt a room full of sister love. For the Black women in the 80s and 90s, everyone else was afraid to touch. Long before breakthrough and such, she listened, tempered their anguish, encouraged them to be bold, even in the presence of old Mr. Death, read poetry, talked of her brother, called up the ancestor spirits, healers of old in poetic chant, oral prescription prayer, praying life back right there on a college campus, in front of camera, crew, and onlookers who, like me, for their part, having been afraid to likewise embrace this case, caste and class, felt stunned and ashamed. She dared the dying women, and by extension me, to fight on, never give up, hold to humanity, remembering all the sister sheroes that had come before, suggesting neither they nor us, we, even in our own deadly hour, would never ever really be alone. She was poet, professor, famous. I, on the cusp of becoming one, a student trying to make a change, hugging a corner in the back, crying, weeping, sobbing, like everyone else in the room that day. She changed me, someone so small, but Goliath tall. She was at a place called Temple. And that day, I watched her turn it into one. Thank you. I love you, Sister Sonia.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me stay with us, Kamika. I need to get Chip on because Chip has to leave us, and I think Anita has to leave us as well. Sister Sonia, Chip is a friend of mine. If I can find him, I'll bring him on screen. Chip is a friend of mine who writes poems all the time. And I could not have done this without including him in this. So Chip, say hello to Sister Sonia. Chip Williford.
Hi, Sister Sonia. Thank you so much. We honor you. Happy birthday. You are definitely
Thank
a
you.
treasure. And this poem that I wrote is called Shame Is Not Mine to Own, from a child's voice. I was the littlest, the last of five. At the time, I stood silent, quietly in line. On my face, fright for the ages, with a wide-eyed, sidelong stare at my big brother and a fluttery ache in my belly. Yeah, I stood in that line. I stood there wearing my lucky yellow shirt, wrinkled trimming sleeves, and bell bottoms, shaking like a leaf inside. Outside, frozen, perfectly still, I stood all the time, just wanting to run away and hide with my big brother at my side. I was 8, and this lineup was the routine when you did something wrong, like not doing your chores or not doing what you're told to do when told, and especially looking like you kind of want to talk back. Come on, I know our family was not the only one, but really, is there any reason to hit, whip, or beat a child, normalizing and perpetuating it as if it were an heirloom? 8 years old I was, lined up from the oldest to the youngest, me. After the speech, delivered almost as long as Sunday sermon, came the beckoning of the hand, pointing out exactly where to stand. First, my eldest brother stood in the designated spot, stoic and still like an iron board. Dreadfully, I watched an endless ache as he, like a hungry crocodile, clenched his teeth as though his very pride was at stake, relentlessly holding on for way too long, thinking so wrong, twist to take, to aggravate, instigate, sure to make more blows to flow, harder and harder. The tears did choke behind the levee until he broke. His head did fall with nothing at all to say, feeling hurt, shame, and defeated, he walked away. Sparing not, within fingers' reach, I watched each of my siblings slowly walk from the line to the spot. A docile stare, her hand outstretched, without a sound, a single tear raced down. Taken by hand, firmly held, jerking which in every way. What? Nothing could we say, okay? Belt, extension cord, leather strap, diverse switches braided with care, struck my sister, who didn't break her docile stare. One by one, I saw them walk off, sniffling in gloom alone to our shared double bunk beds, our double bunk bed, single room. I was 8, now holding my behind, it being my turn, anticipating the burn. Alone, I walked from the line to the spot I was told to stand. Like dark seas, I disappeared in memories, sank into sand, and just like the rest of my siblings, I too slowly extended my hand. Now, regardless of what I've been shown, today I know that shame is not mine to own. Thank you. Thank you, Sister Sonia.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Chip.
Thank you so much.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you,
Very
Helen.
much, my brother.
Thank you so much.
Well,
He's a huge,
honored to
he's
hear
a,
you.
I'm the director of Poetry Street. We meet every last Saturday at the Riverhead Public Library for 2 to 4 and on Zoom. PoetryStreetOnTheRoad.com. Please join us.
Yeah, let me know
leave your,
sometimes. I might be able to do.
I
know?
sure will. Thank you so much.
Sure. Mhm.
leave your information in the chat, Chip, for those who want to join you online. And I know you got to
I
go, so
will.
thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, my
Calls
brother.
on.
Mhm.
Thank you so much. It means the world to me.
Keep up the good work, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Anita, are you ready? I know you have to leave too. Anita?
Amen, amen. Such an honor, Mother Sanchez. I bring you greetings from Gullah Country, USA, down in Beaufort, South Carolina,
Oh, yes.
where Black history began.
Amen and a woman.
Amen, amen.
Right?
Amen, amen. And you know, it's funny how God gives you things. He gave me this, and I don't really write poems. We bring Gullah history live through musical theater, and I write plays and stuff like that. But he woke me up out of my sleep, and I wrote this along with another one. But this one is called America I Stand. I'm gonna first do it in the Gullah dialect, and then I'll come back and do this standard. Hallelujah, thank you, sweet Jesus. Okay. America me stand. America me nurse your babies at me breast. And America, in the merciless sun, me work your land. America me took your whip on my back that built you. America, even when you place your knee on me neck and try to keep me down, America me stand. Justice, equality, equity, scared me. Is it because of me ethnicity, me religion, me skin tone, me gender, unquestioned me humanity? But me come for remind America. Me stand because God created me. God created Una. God created all of these to live here in peace and unity. America, me stand. One body, one race, one nation, God's land. Divided, us will fall. But only together as equal, black, white, red, brown, yellow, America can we stand. America, Will stand for what is right for all of it, not just for a chosen few here and there. America, we stand. So America, spite of the trials and the tribulation, me worth is without question or doubt. I knows who I is and what I is about. I is forever a daughter of Mother Africa, persevering in America, enduring with fortitude and compassion for one nation under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all. America, me stand and me stand tall. I do it in standard. Hallelujah. America,
I'm sorry, I was
stand.
muted.
Thank you.
I was muted, sorry.
America, I stand. America, I stand. I nursed your babies at my breast. America, in the merciless sun, I worked your land. America, I took your whip on my back that built you. America, even when you placed your knee on my neck and try to keep me down, America, I stand. Justice, equality, equity eludes me. Is it because of my ethnicity, my religion, my skin tone, my gender? You question my humanity? But I come to remind you, America, I stand because God created me. God created you. God created us all to live here in peace and unity. America, I stand. One body, one race, one nation, God's land. Divided we will fall, but only together as equals, black, white, red, brown, and yellow, America can we stand. America, will you stand for what is right for all, not just for a chosen few? America, I stand. So America, in spite of the trials and tribulations, my worth is without question or doubt. I know who I am and what I am about. I am forever a daughter of Mother
No,
Africa.
I'm going to go here. Thank you, honey.
America, enduring with fortitude and compassion for one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. America, I stand, and I stand tall.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your presence. God bless you.
Thank you so much. That's our sister. For those of you who
Thank you,
went to
Nikki.
go, we've gone to Goa Festival 2 years in a row. We didn't go this past year, but I put in the chats for you all an upcoming event that they're having in the Goa that our sister is hosting. So Anita, thank you so much.
And I
Appreciate
just like to add,
Mhm.
thank you, Mother Sanchez, because my parents were part of that movement. In fact, the house that I'm in now, I don't know if you are familiar with Pat Conroy, who wrote The Water is Wide, and ended up in Tefusky Island. And he used to sit right at this dining room table. And my parents would strategize the right here in Beaufort. And we were one of the first families to integrate these schools here. And so it was important. And I mean, I was on just wanting to just savor every word you said, the importance of us knowing who we are as a people. And one of the messages, one of the messages that we have to get over to our children is that greatness is not coming to us. You're not going to be great. We already are. And that we come with a history. And irregardless of how they try to erase it, it does not erase the greatness that's in us. And that Gullah is the proof of all the things they tried to do, but failed. We're that trophy that said they tried to erase our history. They tried to erase our language. They tried to erase our religions. They tried to erase all of our traditions. But Gullah Geechee history stands as a reminder of the greatness of Africa. And that I don't care what they do, we ain't going nowhere. They better check with baby kids. We don't die, but we multiply. And that's the power. We have to empower our children with their history. And we have to stop making excuses when we say, well, you know, they didn't teach us that. Guess what? Jewish folks don't wait for other folks that don't look like them to teach them about their history. Asian folks don't. Hispanic folks don't. We're the only people that are still waiting for other people to try to tell us who we are. And if they're the ones that are oppressing us, why would we think that they would give us the truth about who we are? We have to go and seek it out. No excuses anymore, because people walk around with the computer on their wrists. So being ignorant about what our greatness is, the word of God said we perish because of lack of knowledge, not because of racism, inequality, that's going to be here, but because we don't know who we are. We allow things like BET, we allow things like that old crazy rhetoric, that crazy man that's trying to get back, all of those craziness, all that craziness to tell us who we are instead of us going and finding out who we really are. So I challenge you all, if you can't get to Africa, Beaufort, South Carolina is the next best place to start finding out about who you are as a people, because Gullah Geechee history is the taproot, is the genesis of African American history. It tells us how we fit and how we even surpass what we think American history is.
Yeah,
Stop
it
trying
sure
to
does.
fit in as Black people, because we are the leaders and we have to know that. But if you get the wrong message, you think you're gonna have, instead of fried chicken, you're gonna have fried cat and dog. If we keep letting other folks tell us crazy stuff. God bless you. I love you, sister. You know, Helen,
Thank you.
you my girl. I love you. I love you. I love you. God bless. Hope to
Thank
see
you.
y'all in Beaufort, South Carolina.
Thank you, dear.
We'll see you. We'll see you at Gullah.
God
Thank you
bless.
so much for doing this for me. And don't
Oh,
leave. I
God
mean, I know you
bless you.
have to leave, but stick around as long as you can. Okay. Thank you so much,
I
Anita.
will.
All right. Lois, I love you. And I know Sister Sonia loves you too.
Oh, Sharice
And she
got to
loves
go.
Sharice. Sharice
Sharice
got
has
to
to go.
go. So
I'm so glad.
Sharice, the floor.
No, Sharice, you got to go. And you know, Sharice's mama was my one of my sheros, so Sharice got to go.
Oh my God.
Unmute yourself, Sharice.
You muted.
Sharice, you're muted.
Lois, yes, I do. And I appreciate it. I have my grandsons downstairs, and my husband was watching the Eagles game, but it's time for grandma to go downstairs. So thank you so much. I appreciate that. So, Sister Sonia, I'm here from Philadelphia. I just want to say that you are my sister. You are my mother. You are the mother to us all, poet, author, lover of our people, role model, mentor. I first met Sister Sonia as a freshman at Wesleyan University, and she came to share her poetry with us. And that evening, she spent hours with us, with the Black students who were members of the Ujamaa organization. And as a teenager, I'm not a poet, but I am an actress, and I come from a long, a long line from Dr. Vernell Lilly and other people who are other people in my family. And I actually performed Sister Sanji in Houston, Texas, at the University of Houston. And at the same time that I performed Sister Sanji, my sister Hassani performed Sister Sanji, and she was directed in Sister Sanji by August Wilson, as a matter of fact. And that was the beginning of my mother's lifelong relationship with August Wilson also. And so Sister Sonia taught at the University of Pittsburgh and the Africana Studies Department with my mother, Dr. Vernell Lilly. And the things that she said today resonated with me, because these were tough times when Africana Studies was being started in universities. And the challenges remained even after Africana Studies was established and professors were teaching and their students were excelling and their students were going on to do amazing things. It was still a struggle. There's still people now that are trying to take these books off the shelves. They are trying to destroy these programs in the universities. And so the work that was begun by Sister Sonia and so many other leaders in our community tends to resonate. And it's scary to the people who want to keep us behind and who want to take us back and who want to put us back on the plantation. I have also been privileged to mentor many of the students that were taught by Sister Sonia at Temple University, and I see them all the time. And many of these people are young lawyers who are also servant leaders and young people who care very deeply about our community and continue to be influenced by her. On my wall right here in my little home office are books and books of Sonia Sanchez poems. And one of the things that I've been doing for my young mentees and nieces and nephews is I'm giving the retrospectives of Sister Sonia's work to my young relatives that are graduating from high school and college as a way of continuing their educational process, because they still need to know these things and they don't know them. So Sister Sonia, you are our queen. You are our queen mother. I love you. I appreciate you. And I thank you for all that you have contributed to our community, for elevating Black women, for Black children, and for elevating me. You have always been a source of great support, of great strength and education for me personally. One final thing I'd like to say is that I know Sister Sonia's sons, and they're such a source of great pride to her, and they stand as a real tribute to her servant leadership and her skills as a mother. I love you. I'm so proud to be here to celebrate this latest milestone for you, and I wish you many, many more. And that's it. Love you so much. Love you so much. All right. And I'm gonna stay on for a couple of minutes for Lois, and then I'm gonna run. Yes, I'm gonna stay on for a couple of minutes for Lois. So
we got you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Sister Sonia, did you want to say anything before we take a breather and go into Lois?
Say that again?
Did you want to say something before we go on with Lois? Did you want to say a few words before we move on to Lois?
Oh, I just wanted, I am always so amazed by the work that people have started so many years ago and they're still continuing it. You know, someone said to me once, well, gosh, I did that for 10 years. I'm finished now. And I said, no, not quite. You know, it's a lifetime job that we're talking about. Keeping our children alive, by the way, okay? And keeping our people alive and then keeping other people alive at the same time. I will say that I was startled at some point this last couple of years to see what is happening in the world and how at some particular point, you know, the possibility of a major worldwide fight, you know, which could annihilate, you know, this planet. And, you know, all the time that we talked about Black studies, African-American studies and African studies, all the time that we talked about equality in the classroom, which included everyone. At some particular point, we always brought with us the idea of peace. I don't know if some of y'all remember when I was the first poet laureate here in Philadelphia, and they asked me, what would you like to do, Professor Sanchez? And I said, I would like very much to do a peace mural. And there is a peace mural in a place called Philadelphia, you know, all the way downtown. And what was so magnificent about that is that we did a book with peace haiku coming from all over the world. Can you imagine? All over the world, these young people sent us peace haiku. We put the idea of peace on their minds at some point. And here in the city of Philadelphia, we did a mural also too. And I call Sister Toni Morrison, Sister Maya, Sister Bernice Reagan, and I said, I need some peace haiku. And they said, Sonia, I mean, well, what's the haiku? I said, well, I'll teach you what the haiku is. And if you go downtown, you will see the peace mural that's there with the peace haiku from Toni Morrison and from Maya Angelou, from all of these people, who began to put the peace haiku on that mural. And when people come to do their peace walks, I don't know if you've ever seen them, they come and stop first at that peace mural there on their way down to DC. I had wanted to have peace haiku all over the city. I thought a city like Philadelphia needed it. And so therefore near the museums on the benches, I wanted to have, before someone sat down, they read a piece haiku. At that time people said that, it couldn't be done. But at some particular point, it would be very interesting that peace, idea of peace, we got peace haiku from all over the world. Every continent, we got peace coming from young people and older people. And the idea of peace, is a combination of what we were trying to teach in the universities, that, we talked about all the things we wanted done in the classroom, but the underwriting thing that also traveled with me was the idea of peace. Peace is a human thing that we African Americans, have always understood the need for peace. When I did my Harriet Tubman haiku, as she moved all over the South, coming north at some particular point, right? The idea of peace permeated her footsteps as she moved and brought our people out of places where they were being killed and persecuted. I just wanted to say it's an honor to hear what our dear sister said. It is an honor to know that there are people still working very hard to make sure that we survive in a place called America. But also, as I said, when they gave a birthday party for me up at the Schomburg, that to extend this idea of what it means to be human, that what we have tried to answer as a people, and we're asking other people to answer also, what does it mean to be human? Not
Right.
cute. You know what I mean? Not like with the best hairdo you got on the planet Earth. You know what I mean? Not the tightest thing you can put on or the loosest thing you can put on, right? And the best makeup you can put on and the best haircuts and the best hairdo you can do. What does it mean? What does it mean? What does it finally mean to walk in peace on this earth? Not in such a way that people are beginning again to start wars all over this earth now at some point. And it's not like the wars that we saw initially with that A bomb coming along, that very few countries, maybe 2 countries or 3 countries had that bomb. Now more countries have that bomb, and they will jump out and say, I might drop this bomb on you. And so at the core of everything is that, we've got to make sure that we also teach our children who they are, how they move or must move on this earth also too, how they must move in a peaceful fashion with each other, because that is how we survive on this earth, by going, getting this education, working very hard to make sure, that our voices are heard, that people see us walking the streets of America, striving to walk upright as human beings. This is the time for human beings to take control of this earth. And a man who lived in Great Britain said, that if we do not take on this costume of peace, there will be no earth, no world. And that is true, and so therefore we've got to say to our children, to work with our children, to talk with adults on this earth, to move out into the world and say simply, yes, if we're going to pray, let's also today at this church pray for peace. in our neighborhoods, in our homes, in our churches, wherever we be. This is the idea, because we need to have peace on this. The recording stopped.
Helen, did you?
Thank you very much, my dear. It was an honor.
I'm not sure what happened. I got booted out, but I'm back. I'm not at all sure what just happened. So forgive me. Thank you, Sister
I
Sonia.
tell you, I've been on the road. I've been on the road forever. I've been in places forever, and I've been on radios and TVs forever. And the oddest things happen when you start talking about peace and racial justice. Something always goes out, and all I say out loud is that Now let us get back to the real thing, and we are talking for our children, 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 and for this earth also too. We've got to begin to talk to our children and our children's children and to this earth about peace. Because without peace, there is no earth at all. There are no people like us again on this earth. So this is how we've got to move, period, whatever, and begin our mornings with peace, No, I live in Germantown, and I remember when I told people, they said, Professor Sanchez, you just moved to Philadelphia. Where do you live? I said, oh, I get this big house in Germantown. They said, Germantown? You're living in Germantown? I said, yes, it's a nice place, Germantown. They said, oh, we thought you'd be living all the way up downtown someplace, or all the way up in some place called Chestnut Hill. I said, but I want to live also with people who look like me and people who don't look like me. And children I see walking to school, who pass by my house, whatever, and they pick the roses as they go to school. And their mothers say, don't pick Miss Sanchez's rose. And I say, oh, that's okay. It's there for them to take to school, to look at something as beautiful as a rose, almost as beautiful as they are. This is where we are finally on an earth that is demanding finally that human beings walk upright as human beings, finally, and that was what we were about when we said we began to teach what should be taught in these schools, so therefore people can walk upright as human beings and walk together and play together and work together and be together on this earth, but also at the same time know that we've got to fight for the justice and for peace on this earth, because there are people on this earth who are running for office all over the world, but at this point, not just in America, but all over the world, who are now about peace. And they're not about peace. They are not about peace at all. They're about fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting. And we can't survive in that manner. So not only are we obliged to teach our children about themselves and their history, but also about the mighty idea of MLK and other people who talked about peace, walking in peace on this earth, going out to school in peace on this earth, right? And sometimes the children would pass by my house and they would be getting ready to fight. And I'm there, I've just done my walk, I've just eaten my oatmeal, and I'm just beginning to read the newspapers, the two newspapers, and people are going to stop outside my house to fight. And I want to ignore them initially, then I come down and says, hey, hey, what's happening here? She said, he said. I said, shh. Can you say shh? No. I said, shh. Come on, come up the steps. I'm going to open my door to my house. What are you hearing here? Is it quiet? Is it arguing? Is it whatever? They said, it's quiet. I said, yeah. You see this porch? Anytime you're going to school and you think you have an argument, ring my doorbell, knock on my door. I'll be sitting here because I would have had my walk and hopefully my breakfast by then, right? And I'll be reading and doing some work, reading the newspaper. Just come and tell me what's going on. What help do you need? Because you cannot learn if you're constantly angry. You cannot learn if you're not at peace, without peace, moving within your body, within your head, within your loins, within your hands, within your feet, within your eyes, within your hands. And that's what we've got to do to save this earth, and to save our children. And when we save our children, we save other children also on this earth. So peace is a mighty word, my dear brothers and my dear sisters. Peace is a mighty, mighty motion. And as this man said in Europe, he said, if we do not embrace peace in this century, we will not have an earth. Simple as that. I don't know how much simpler we can get, people, okay? But we can deal with that and move with that and move always with the idea, of moving with people, making sure they have jobs, making sure they get a good education, going into these places. I mean, imagine closing schools because they said not enough people are in those schools. I mean, unbelievable. That is unbelievable as far as I'm concerned. But what I do know at some particular point, that we as a people must always be ready to deal with our children who have suffered through 4 years, of what, they have said, like, it is this massive thing and we don't know necessarily how it arrived, but it's killing people. And we're saying, yeah, but we're in the business of giving life, maintaining life with our children, with all the children on this planet Earth, in the schools, in the churches, in the streets of America also too, and, we must move always, to make sure that our children, at some point recognize the idea that peace is a human right for all of us on this earth.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And we'll go right from that into Lois. And bear with me, there's a few other folks that I've asked to, Carolyn Jackson, John James. I don't know if Bill Davis is still here. I know Linda Carter wants to say a few words, but go ahead, Lois. We'll hear from you now. How are you today? This is another of our shared loves, Sister Sonia. You didn't know that, did you?
Yeah. Mama Sonia,
Wait.
this is
I can't.
Can you see me? Oh, huh?
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, so I can see you.
Can you see me now?
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Yes.
With all my sisters.
The blur.
I'm blurry.
Yeah, now you're not, but before you were,
Oh, because of that. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I was a blur too. So it doesn't matter. We were all blurry there for a minute. Right.
You see that, Sister Sonia? That's when we met.
How you doing?
Go ahead, Lois.
On the picture.
Yes.
Yeah. Mama Sonia, I decided that I wanted to, this is called my love letter to my shero, Mama Sonia Sanchez.
Okay.
And as I have been guided most of my life by my connection with African American sheros, templates, and guides for my own journey, you, Mama Sonia, have been one of my most enduring and unending sources of inspiration. As Poporo states, sheros are one mechanism we use to tell ourselves what we stand for. Further, T. Sanchez reminds us, forgotten is the idea the hero reveals the potential of humanity and the goodness of human nature, to which I add, they also show us what is possible. Mama Sonia Sanchez, you have been that shero for me, a consistent light over time. A shero in the African worldview I subscribe to is one who encourages, reflects, and projects the best of what our culture offers. As African American women, we sit in the seat of primacy, not just because we are the first, like Osset, whom I propose is the true shero. We put things back together and give birth to all that is. We are thus the prototype, not merely the archetype. And we have the power to define our own sheros apart from Western Eurocentric colonized ideologies that have sought to oppress, erase, and marginalize us. I believe this is due to the magic we exhibit in our ability to overcome, survive, and thrive through courage, sacrifice, love, joy, and peace. Because of this, we have earned the right to define and choose our own sheros. By identifying the values and characteristics of a shero, we acknowledge our own potential. Sheros reflect our values, ideas, and dreams. Their qualities endure as a guide and inspiration for all of us to become sheros. And today, we are truly in the presence of a shero, my shero, Mama Sonia Sanchez. As Mama Sonia went about her work of changing the world, reshaping spaces for African-American women and girls like me, she opened doors, new thoughts, possibilities, and ways of being. I am forever grateful for this, and now accountable to continue to pass on, to pave the way for those who come after me, and after me, and after me. I stepped into transformative spaces through doors you flung open and corridors I had known you unlatched, arenas where I could reconnect with the original contract I made with Oludumare before stepping on this earth. At 12 years old, at your book signing, a blues book for Blue Black magical women at Germantown Friends School, the little girl in me who had sought poetry as a refuge was reconfigured and transformed, coming to understand the true power of words and self-definition. As a freshman at the University of Pittsburgh in the late 70s, I was unaware of the resistance and insistence on African agency that manifested in the Department of Black Studies. Yet you fostered the very opportunities that allowed me to learn my herstory. It was in my first Black Studies class, Black Women Writers, that I realized what my primary education had hidden from me. Through that experience, I found my tribe and embraced my own voice and my reality. Later in my 20s and 30s again, you bestowed upon me the gift and privilege of inhabiting Sistah Sonia, who spoke through me, creating within me a new narrative of liberation and responsibility. Now in my PhD journey, I live my Ikigai because of you and the sheros who guide me. My purpose is to honor and venerate the divinity and primacy of iconic, pioneering African-American women of culture, specifically by remembering, reclaiming, reframing, restoring, and retelling their sacred stories. Mama Sonia, I am forever indebted to you for answering the call. And I end with this. Not just another Black woman reprise, where these women came to me through their words and their stories. And as you say in the books that we carry, I am not just another Black woman. I am a colored girl wrapped in a blues book for Blue Black magical women who ain't ego tripping, because I'm getting ready to gather together in my name in search of our mother's gardens. And while I'm waiting to exhale, now I know when and where I enter, because can't nobody tell me there ain't no ducks tracks on the road, because I have sang the Song of Solomon, listened to the women of Brewster Place tell of frozen sorrows so that I could know the napper truth. And now I'm going to tell my people the truth, because for my people ain't no losing ground. For my people, it's by any means necessary. For my people, I dream a world. For my people, I dream a world. I dream a world for my people, because we are not just another Black woman.
Mm. Yes.
The world needs love, and the world needs love, Mama Sonia, not just the noun, but as an action verb, as my shero, Mama Sonia, so markedly demonstrates. I thank you. I honor you. I love you. Sawabona, we see you. Gratefully yours, Lois.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Miss Lois, we felt it all. We felt the words, we felt the emotion, we felt the pride, we felt it all. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you,
I see some clapped hands in the chat, so and Sister Sonia's giving you her love. I'm going to keep it moving because we're getting late into the afternoon. Carolyn Jackson, are you ready?
So nervous.
Go ahead.
No, I just want to say I was so nervous. And no, I just wanted to say, Mama Sonia, I get so nervous around you because you have been so important to my life. You're all up in my dissertation paper. So, but it is, I just thank you. But that's where my nervousness comes from, because I'm usually not a nervous person. You can ask anybody, ask Amika.
I was like, nervous? What?
You didn't sound like it at all, my dear sister. It was really, really wonderful. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And the next we have Miss
Thank you.
Carolyn Jackson, who is a wonderful poet in her own right. She wrote a poem for When Black Women Gather within minutes of finding our group. So there was no way I could have this day go on without asking her to pay tribute to you. So, Sister Sonia, meet Carolyn Jackson. You're muted, Carolyn, just so you know. Carolyn, you're muted.
Hello.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good
Good
afternoon, Mother.
afternoon. Good afternoon, my dear sister. Mhm.
I'm so appreciative of Helen asking me to write a tribute or something for your 90th birthday. I had the opportunity, my sister Pat and I were in Harlem. I think it might have been 2010 or 11. We were there for the big event that they have right next to the Stromberg Library. And we had an opportunity to hear you speak at an event that Friday night. We were there all weekend, and it was just amazing to hear you and to see such a booming, big voice come out of such a petite woman. And we never forgot that. And I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done. And thank you so much for being an inspiration to me. I'm not, I'm one of those closet poets where I write, but I don't all necessarily get my work out there like I probably should. But I'm thankful for this opportunity. And I just wanted to share with you all a poem that I wrote in honor of our dear lady. Sonia Sanchez, born in Birmingham, had much to protest. The dirty South, the cradle of hate with no hint of integration, colored only, cross burnings, the malignancy of white neglect. African Americans were stifled from the act of suffocation. Professor Sanchez is a celebrated activist, playwright, and poet. In the 60s, she was drawn into the Black arts movement game. In 2011, Philly's mayor honored her as his first poet laureate. When greeting her, put respect on her name as Grand Dame. Heaven enrich this madam with poetry, drama, and prose as she pours her militant femininity into every piece. A heroine of resistance, she is either the thorn or the rose, provoking uneasiness from those who wished she would cease. Poetess Sanchez speaks of Black culture and history with art. I've been a woman, hand grenades, and we are bad people. Writing in vernacular reveals the jagged rhythm of our hearts, recalling memories of the baton beatings or bombed out steeple. Elder Sonia inspires other Black writers to pursue their craft, as she did this poet when I saw her incarnate at the Stromberg. Like her, I too write to expose the evils deserving of my wrath. She enthralls us as she opines her truths, not resisting the urge. Thank you very much.
Thank
Yeah,
you
thank you, my dear sister.
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
at the last minute, I asked John James, would he sing something for us? So, John, if you can sing something real quick in honor of Sister Sonia. John,
Sure,
okay.
I'd be honored to, Sister Mother Sonia. It's an honor to be here to see so many incredible Black women that have been inspired by you and your work and your words and your activism. And to just be a part of this, I hope that in keeping with celebrating you, you enjoy what this I'm going to present. It's called a mashup. In technical terms, we call it a medley. But I thought about various artists that I've been inspired by throughout the years who've used their voices and pens for the advancement of Black people. So I'm gonna just take it from there. Hush now, child. Now don't you cry.
Your folk might understand you, yeah, by and by. Just move on up towards your destination. Though you might find from time to time complication. Now bite your lip and take a trip. There may be wet roads ahead, but you cannot slip. Come on, just move on up to your destination. Oh, just move on up in spite of complications. And you know, we just lost Frankie Beverly, and I want to say a little something that he said. We are one. No, what we do, we are one. And love will see us through. We are one. Oh, we are one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, John. There were a few other folks, so I'm just going to, I don't want to take up too much. Oh, if I don't let Lyndon speak, he's going to strangle me. And Lyndon, go ahead. What was your question for Sister Sonia? And then we're going to give some closing remarks to her and let it go.
Hi, Sister
Lyndon?
Sonia. First, can you hear me? Okay.
Oh, Linda. Okay, Linda. I said Lyndon, but go ahead, Linda. Go ahead, Linda. Go ahead.
Okay. Just real quick. First, like I don't do poetry, and yours is the only ones I listen to and always have listened to. So anyway, real quick. First of all, I'd like to think that I've known you all my life. Like you, I serve as an active citizen, not just an activist, and also as an agitator. And I think that that's important. I remember Amiri Baraka, that's how I learned about you, Amiri Baraka and Committee for Unified North walking through the projects, the public housing projects that I lived in down the street from his office. And so I wanted to say, in terms of the Black arts movement that you with others unleashed, going back to your point about peace, I would protest in Vietnam when I was 12 years old because of you guys. So I, you know, in terms of peace, so I think that's important. And to everybody else, I'd just like you to know, in this interest of peace, that 60% of our tax dollars goes to war, increasing the profits for people's pensions, investments, and also the weapons come back to our community. And we need to know that. And also the mindset, going back to what you said, Sister Sonia Sanchez, about people fighting in front of your house. The mindset of war comes back to our community. We've taken that on. So I think that's important. The other thing is, you know, I'm thinking about your peace stuff because I've been doing this for 58 years, talking about peace. I think I'm also a member of the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists who are looking at how we can keep from having or sustain the world we have with peace. So, you know, in tribute to you, I've been doing this peace thing for a long time, not as long as you, but for a long time. So, you know, thank you for the energy that you bring to us all. And for the poetry, you know, I'm not a poet, nor do I know how to write poetry. I know nothing about it. And the only poetry I've ever listened to and read was yours. So, you know, thanks a lot. And be well and happy birthday. Oh, I did have one quick question. Based on all the efforts that you guys, you know, the whole movement engaged in, do you think it was the results of an imperialist financial power structure? You know, you guys didn't wait for permission from the power structure. You didn't wait for the schools to give you that information. However, the consequence, which you started to talk about a little bit later, is that you were a threat to the system and continue, even in your age now, you continue to be a threat to the system. And if you could just speak real quickly about the power of the Schomburg Library, which you've already done when I first came in, just a little bit, and the brilliance of Arterial Schomburg to create that library, and to talk about, you know, all this. Do you think that's what led to the FBI coming to your house, to your home?
We had moved to a place called San Francisco to begin the first Black Studies in America. And one day my landlord knocked on the door, a wonderful landlord, Japanese American, And he said, Professor Sanchez, there are two men who would like to see you. And so they came to the door, and I said, yes. And the guy turned around, he reached in his pocket and said, FBI. And I said, because I lived right around Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco, I said, oh, is there a big problem there, a fight or something? And he turned to my landlord and said, she's teaching Dubois right. He named all of these names, and a little innocent me on some levels, I said, yes, I teach them because you can't do Black literature without them. And the guy looked at me like, lady, whatever. But he told my landlord, you should put her out the house, put her out this house, put her out this house into the streets. And I I stood there, trying to figure out, what in the world would this man want to put me out in the streets, right? Because we're teaching something in a university about literature, about teaching creative writing, where students were challenged to write about themselves and their families, right? Not with disdain, but with love and respect, and the problems that ensued, whatever. These are the things that we did. And my landlord left, but he had given me a Samoyed, this big dog. I come from New York City, and we could not afford to have a dog in the house and apartments, whatever, etc. And so I had fed the dog and not petted the dog, and I heard his big feet come down the hallway, and Snow sat right down next to me and looked up like this at this man who had his hand in my face, right? And Snow leaped for him, and he said, lady, watch your dog. And I said, Snow sat back down, but never took his eyes off of that FBI man. There were two of them, right? It was an amazing moment. And I remember afterwards, when I said, look, I don't know what else to tell you. Yes, I do teach the literature. Yes, I do teach creative writing from the point of view, if you're Black, you're going to write about your Blackness. If you're Latino, you're going to write about your Latino, what it means to be Latino. If you're white, you're going to write about that. All of that would be in a classroom, period. And they were so angry. They kept saying, put her out, put her out. Put her out on the streets. Can you imagine that? You have got to really imagine that. I remember just being completely shocked by that attitude and what was going on. And so I opened the door a little wider, and they left. And they kept saying, put her out, put her out. She's one of those, whatever. They didn't say revolutionaries, but it's another term at that particular point. But that was the reality, because one thing that you began to understand, that America knew that if we taught what we should have taught in the schools of America, we would not be in the condition that we're in today, my dear sister. That you teach the truth, that these children could get along with each other. These children, could figure out things together. These children could learn together, and within the context of a classroom, I had a 45 or 50 people looking at me, whatever. You could begin that thrust towards, talking about what is human. What does it mean to walk upright as a human being? What does it mean when someone curses you out? Do you curse them all back out again? Or do we sit down and discuss, what that really means, where that comes from, that kind of anger? These are the kinds of things that we did. And it came through the literature. It came through the writings, the poems that my students wrote, the plays that they did. We took Black theater to a place called San Francisco State, and these young actors in the classrooms. Danny Glover was one of the students. He would come in and he started acting there at San Francisco State with many other people too. So yes, my dear sister, this be understood, this be fought for. This be understood fully, that at some point you have got to begin to talk about what it means to walk upright as a human being, whatever. And it means also we had to teach people too, that if someone came up, and hit you, whatever, that, at that point we didn't want to start a fight, but we would interfere, and sit down at that particular point, if it's on the streets, on the sidewalks, or whatever, and begin to talk about what does it mean when you strike back at a person? What does it mean for us to continue to hate each other and hurt each other and beat each other, and kill each other also at the same time? These are the things that we talked about. People wanted us to wipe each other out, so therefore there would be less of us walking on the earth. But one of the things that you learn is that you can teach peace. You can teach love. You can teach brotherhood. You can teach in your classroom, what it means to be human. That when we began to read what we read, from our enslavement all the way up to the Invisible Man, students had tears in their eyes because they were meeting people that they knew existed in their neighborhood, but they had never seen it in print. They'd never seen solutions, perhaps, but they had never known that great literature came out of the loins and the breasts, and the brains of African Americans and Latinos, and people of color, right? Asians, whatever. All of these came into our classrooms, and we had a classroom where people looked at each other as human beings, not as the enemy. But you and I understand that when you want to suppress a people, that you always make sure that hatred runs on top of people. And so therefore what we attempted to do, and what we are still attempting to do, is to bring the idea of peace, the idea of love, the idea of respect, amongst our children in the classroom. Those are the things that must happen in the classroom and in our homes also too, and in the streets of America. Because those first places that we gathered in the South and got together, these towns, you didn't have people coming out of their enslavement, wiping each other out on the streets of America. Isn't that amazing? You go back and read that history and history, that did not happen. People were too busy building, and trying to make a way, sometimes out of no way, as some great person said many years ago. This is what we're striving to do at some point, not to imitate a country that at some point only resolves things by guns, what I'm saying, beating people up, putting people in the jails of America. It's a hard fight that we have here. It's a lot of work to be done. But we do know that if we do not have peace on this earth, at this particular time, and by the next 20 years, we are not going to have a place for our children's children to grow up and to live in. So it is an emergency. It is necessary for us to always to understand at some particular point that we must begin this idea in the churches, in the homes, in the schools, whatever, that this idea of peace is very important for us all to stay alive and to be good, upright human beings on this earth. Very hard to do, very difficult to do in this time, but above all, go out and vote. I can't say that enough times. Someone said to me, I'm not going to vote. There's nobody to vote for. And I could see myself getting angry. Then I had to kind of take it down a little bit and say, no, that is not true at all, right? It is never always what you want. My father and my grandmother and my great-grandmother voted for people that they didn't even want to see in the White House at all. But they knew that they had gotten the idea, they had gotten the right to vote. And so therefore you must exercise that vote, but you must also at some particular point be very careful about the people you vote for. We have got to vote, for people who would then listen to what we are saying on this earth, the idea of what it means to walk upright as a human being, not as a murderer, not as somebody, who wants to kill people and to wipe people out and destroy people and to run through the streets of America, but people who would begin to look at this earth as a refuge, as a place for human beings to live. That is something that must be stressed and it must be told every day. The prayer, every day must be, let us begin to move upright as human beings, period, on this earth, on this earth, on this earth, on this earth now. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Linda, thank you for your
Thank
question. Lyndon, who I had called on, he has had his hand up for the longest. Lyndon, go ahead real quickly. We're going to have to let our sister go. Lyndon Beckford, are you still with us?
Yes, I am. I am. First of all, can everybody hear me?
Mhm.
Yes.
Wait.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of bear
We
with me
don't, he
because
doesn't have his camera on, Sister Sonia. We just hear his voice.
Okay.
I've
Okay.
I've been under the weather, but I'm getting better. But I had to hop on here. First of all, Sister Sonia,
Yes,
I
my brother.
met you in 2012. I'm in California. I met you in 2012 at
Uh-huh.
the um, book fair over there in Leimert Park.
Oh,
And
yes. Oh, oh,
yes,
yes.
and I was seated behind you and Brother Amiri Baraka. As a matter of fact, I took a picture
But
with you.
there.
I'm
Mhm.
sorry, you, Amir Baraka, and Isabel Wilkerson
I
when she
didn't
was
say anything.
promoting her book, The Warmth of Other
Oh,
Suns.
right.
Um, the,
Mhm.
first of all, happy birthday, number one. Number two, you represent a fountain of knowledge and information. I appreciate that. Um, I would love to connect with you because I'm working on a project, and I'll fill Helen in on this for February of 2025 to commemorate the 60th anniversary of the assassination of Malcolm X. Because it's clear to me that without Malcolm X, there's no um, Black Arts Movement. So Malcolm X, in many ways, was the godfather of the Black Arts Movement. Lastly, and I'll wrap it up, I was deeply moved by the conversation I saw with you, Gary Bird, um, Dr. John Henry Clark, somebody who to this day I
Oh,
will forever regret that I never got a chance to meet. But it's
mm.
through his teachings I've
Wonderful.
learned a lot. And you were on there with him, as
Mhm.
well as a woman by the name, may she rest in peace, Marion Starlings. Not enough people know about her
Mm.
and her work. So
Mm.
I would love to, at
Mm.
some point in closing, connect with you regarding some of the work that she did. I was deeply, deeply moved by that. And I was also deeply moved by your nuanced outlook as it related to the role that Black folks played, particularly Black women played in terms of our food that has been today demonized, which is a whole nother
Mhm.
conversation. But I just want to end and say it's a pleasure and an honor and a privilege to be in your presence, even though we're doing this by Zoom. It's an honor, privilege, and to be with you. And I cannot say thank you enough for the work and the role that you've played in the upliftment of our people. And I'll end it there.
Thank you,
Thank
thank
you.
you, my dear brother. And you could get that information to me, my dear sister, okay? From the brother, okay? I appreciate
I,
that.
s- I
Oh,
certainly will.
mm,
There's a question in the chat that I think you might enjoy answering. And I was glad you touched on the election because you and I talk about that a lot. And I hope people heard you loud and clear that this vote is crucial and we must vote. And Sister Sonia has been very clear that we cannot allow the clock to be turned backwards. And some candidates have that in mind. So um, but here's a good question I think you'll enjoy, Sister Sonia. It says, if you could tell people to buy only two of your works, which two would they be?
oh gosh, wow, that's a good question. You know, I probably would they just did a collection, a collected thing of my books, of my books. So in here you can get most of the poems. Actually, they had to like cut out some of the poems from some of my books, so it's not really all the poetry in there, but some real poems. And then I would suggest that we get something called the 1619 Project to see before you go out to vote, so you can see exactly what is going on. That there's some dangerous things going on with this voting at some point, right? If we thought before it was dangerous, you know, when what happened downtown in a place called DC, when the results were not what people wanted, at some point, it's going to be equally as I don't want to say as bad, but it's going to be as difficult. So we need very much to prepare for what I call a landslide. We need to help people get out to vote as they used to do many years ago, right? To help people move on. This idea, someone said, well, people don't want to come out with me because they don't trust me. But I said, that's something that we got to begin to do during the year, that, we ask, well, you say to people, do you need something from the store? Can I help you from the store? Or you see what someone struggling up with a cart or a bags trying to get to their apartment, and you're sitting on your porch reading, and you look up, you don't really want to be bothered, but you put that book down, you go down, and as big as I am, you share that shopping bag with someone trying to get home with some food. The kinds of things that are necessary at this particular point are the necessary things, that we've got to, even though someone said, but it's scary to be kind to people outside, and I said, yeah, well, it could be scary just walking outside, it could be scary in the house, any place. But the point is that that's what people want us to feel, that it's too scary to go out and do anything, and to be seen, and to go to work, and to go to church, and to go take our children to the park or to the zoo, whatever. But we've got to maintain our humanity with our families and with our children and with our neighbors. And when the garbage cans are just thrown any place, I pick up my garbage can, but I pick up the garbage cans of other people who live on that block also too, because they're probably at work someplace. And they will come and give you tickets if things are not in place. And I've had to complain bitterly that at some particular point, that's not my garbage can, but it's been placed right in front of my house at some particular point. So it's rough, some of the ordinary things that we do. But we must do what I call extraordinary things. We've got to, at some point, when you say something to people, they want to scream at you. We've got to say, excuse me, my sister, I didn't mean to offend you. I was just trying to be helpful, and back away, until when we walk in the streets, we've got to do what we used to do in New York City, is that we used to say, good morning, my sister, good morning, my brothers. And people would jump sometimes, they were startled by it. But we've got to bring that history back again, that we are brothers and sisters, that we need very much to acknowledge that. And we need also to show our children that when they come and close our schools in our neighborhoods and say, because it's a small enrollment, we've got to go in and take those children back in those schools and sit in those schools and say, you cannot close the schools of our children, because our children need to be educated. They need to have space sometimes. Sometimes we have to get aggressive about these things, but let our children know that we have them uppermost in our hearts, in our brains, in our thoughts every day, trying to figure out how to make this a much easier place for them to walk on this earth during the time that they are here. It's hard and it's difficult. And I know at some particular point that the last 4 years have been unbelievably hard for our young people. Can you imagine young people staying in the house the way they had to stay in the house, wearing masks? Think about it. Think about it. Whatever. Walking down the street, walking down in front of your house, arguing, stopping in front of your house, talking about they're gonna fight, and you've already done your morning walk, and you've done your morning oatmeal, and you're sitting there reading the paper, and you just don't want to move, and you make yourself get up off the porch and go and say, please don't fight. What are you fighting about? Why do you want to hit each other? You're going to school to learn, come come here, come sit on my porch, sit on my porch and tell me, what do you hear? You hear, first of all, you see these butterflies flying around here, and you hear the birds also tweeting, but what do you hear? You hear silence for people to read, for people to listen, for people to look out and see what is going on in the world. But I said, if you are walking by my house and you do have that great difficulty, ring my bell. I'm usually sitting out here reading, of trying to fix up a garden that is in disrepair this year. Just ask, if you need help, say, I need help, say, I need help me. I need help, and we'll sit down and we make sure that you'll get the proper help that you need at some particular point, because, we have made you children, we have taught you children, we have tried to bring you up, so therefore you will be the men and women that this earth requires to make it the kind of human place. And we need to protect you, we need to love you, we need to walk with you, we need to talk with you. Sometimes I catch up with some people and I walk with some of the young people and they're startled by it, whatever, but you just say who you are sometimes, or who, you live around here and what school are you walking to, and and if you need help, sometimes let us know, or sometimes we have water out on the porch. If you need some cold water, come get it. We've got to make these children understand that they are, our children, that we love them, that we are trying to protect them and let them grow up to be young men and women on this planet, on this earth, in this city called Philadelphia and New York City, and Atlanta, Georgia, and all the other places that people are trying to live and be creative. And we must be creative how we look at our children and teach them and love them. But we must also understand that this is a hard time right now for all of our children. Imagine 4 years of children going to school and graduating and not having the things that other children have had as a consequence. These are the things we got to understand. So of course, sometimes they will lose their direction, in the streets of America, but we've got to go out, saying simply, we will help you, not beat you, but we will help you get back on the right track. We'll help you get back into the schools that you need to be in. And we need to start again Saturday programs. We used to have Saturday programs where we show films to our children and we taught them the math and the English that they needed at that particular point. And we had people come in and do plays in different languages, whatever, etc., on a Saturday, all day long, which said, yeah, we work during the week, but we also know that on Saturdays and Sundays, we need to work with you also, because you probably have not gotten the kind of education you should have gotten in these cities, and perhaps the love that you should have gotten in these cities also too. It is a hard road that we are facing, but one of the roads that we'll be facing within the next few weeks will be the road of voting. Someone said to me, I don't vote. I said, that they beat up some of the greatest people, women in America who fought for us to vote, beat her up in a jail, people, whatever. And then would hand the things to a Black man and say, now you beat her, also at the same time. We've got to look at the world with our eyes wide open. We've got to say to our children, we will help you the best way that we can. We got to say to the city, you cannot close all these schools as we did before and expect our children to be an educated generation at all, period. We've got to look at our children, all of these children in the city of Philadelphia, and begin to understand that not just in private schools, but in these public schools also too, there would be good teachers and good educators in there, and good work going on there and good teaching going on, because we used to go into the schools and teach English, and literature. And then it's just, by some miracle that stopped, at some point. But this is what we are doing and must do. Save our children, save our children, save our children. Walk with our children when we see them, talk with our children, say simply that, we, need, if you need help, ask us and we'll try to give you that help, try to put you in the right direction, because it's a hard hard trip for these young people at this particular point, and we love them so, and they need to be loved, and they need to be given direction, and they need to be given jobs in the summertime, and they need to look up and know at some particular point that they are loved in the city of Philadelphia and all the other cities that make up these American cities, these American states at some particular point. It's a hard thing that we're asking people to do, but a lot of these jobs we can get will be people who begin that whole process of invigorating our students, bringing them again to an arena of peace, and then say simply, you know, how are these guns getting on the streets of America so thoroughly, you know, that our children can get them that fast, right? You know, we've got to say at some particular point, you know, these are young people who deserve to live. Their history demands that they stay alive. So therefore, we can look at a city, at a country that has said simply, peace is possible.
Absolutely. It has just been brought to my attention that we have a very noted Haitian American novelist on here, Edgewood. Why'd her name just go away from me? Edwidge Danica. Are you still with us?
Yes.
And can we get you?
Yes, a great novelist.
Edwidge.
Yes, a great. Mm-hmm.
Yes, Edwidge, are you still with us?
Hello.
Hi, how are you? Forgive me. Is your camera on? I don't see you. Oh, you don't have to, but go ahead.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
She's
My
on.
camera's on, but it's not showing for some
How
reason.
are you, my dear sister?
I just wanted.
I can
We
see
can
you.
see you.
I can see you.
Oh, okay. It's probably a weird angle. I wasn't expecting to come on. I was just listening to all the wisdom and love, but I wanted to say thank you to all of you, and thank you for celebrating our wonderful sister, elder, mentor, and happy birthday, Sister Sonia. Happy birthday. Happy 90th birthday.
Thank you. Yes. One day
I
you'll
was-
be 90. Okay.
Yeah.
Eat right. Think the right thoughts, whatever, etc. You know, and move on. You know, I mean, it is an amazing moment, you know, to know what we can do and how we can move on this earth, you know.
Absolutely. And thank you for all the wisdom.
Here you are. Yes.
Thank you. We love you so much.
How are the children? Okay.
They're okay. I'll call you soon.
They're taller than I, right?
Yeah.
They're taller than I now, right?
Yes, and me too.
Right. Yes.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity.
Sister Danica, I'm Helen Higginbotham, and I do this every Sunday. And since you've shown your face, I would love to have you come back and be a guest, and we can talk, especially with all the stuff that's going around with the Haitian community right now. If you're interested and available, I'd love to
Yes,
have.
absolutely. It would be my honor.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'll grab your information out of the chest. Thank you, Gloria, for bringing it to my attention that she was here. So thank you.
My absolute pleasure. One of my favorites.
Yes, she is. She's a great writer. And I remember the first time I met her at a place called Temple University. And she was so very young, right? You know, and we had brought her in women's studies, right? And I sat there listening to her and said, and I thought to myself, welcome. We have another one. We have another one who will write and move in such a way that we will be moved by her work and her words. And we thank you, my dear sister, for all your years of words and beautiful words and words that made us turn around and say, I too can walk upright as a human being. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you. You're the blueprint.
Thank you.
Thank
and
you.
tell the little ones who are no longer little is that I didn't know where to send some things, you know, but I got the addresses now. So like, tell them.
All right. Yeah, will do. I'll call you. I'll call you later.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Isn't she beautiful?
Yes, she is. I'm so glad to meet you. I look
Likewise,
forward to
thank
having
you.
you back as a guest I'll grab your, you
Yeah,
can
and
either
make sure you
inbox
make
me
her
your
read,
information.
read, read something
Will
from one
do.
of her books, okay? Because you know, it's one thing to talk, it's one thing to hear what she has written too. And it is always a joy to read her work. Thank you, my dear sister, for being on this earth, okay?
Thank you, likewise. I'm gonna leave it to the others now. I'll call you soon.
Okay, thank you now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. That was beautiful. See there, everybody's here. We all love you. We all want to wish you the happiest of happiest of happy birthdays. And you know, again, I can't say how flattered I am that you agreed to come meet with us because I know what your schedule has been for these last few months. I mean, few weeks, and I just appreciate that you made this time to be here with us. And before we go, SY, can you please read your haiku? And then we're going to let our sister go. We'll end on a haiku from SY.
It's still too noisy around me.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know how to read haiku. She sent it to me. But let me see. I don't see it in the chats anymore. Where is it at?
What is the problem? What was the?
Oh, all right. I think you're supposed to read these, and I'll send it to Lois. Lois, read this for us, please. She'll know how to read it in rhythm. Isn't there a rhythm to this, Sister Sonia?
You make your own rhythm with your haiku. And there are 3 lines usually, you know, although within the world of the haiku, there have been people who are just writing 2-line haiku, okay? But usually it's 3 lines, okay? 5, 7, you know, 5, you know, the amount of syllables there. But it is, you know why I push the haiku? Because it is the most peaceful form you can write in poetry. And so that's why I always teach the haiku. And you know who writes the most beautiful haiku? Children. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Amazing haiku, you know, whatever. And you know, and we've written them together, you know, with them on the board. And they said, we wrote that, right? And I said, yes. And they go, we wrote that. We wrote a haiku. But it's about peace, finally. The most peaceful poem we can write is that haiku. Right, yeah.
Lois, will you do us the honors, please?
The title
Lois?
is Look. Oh, can you hear me? I'm here.
Yes, we hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
It's called Look in the Sky Now. Rainbows in the sky. Sanchez, freedom, wisdom, now. Not bad, not bird, excuse me. I gotta go back because this is beautiful. Look in the sky now. Rainbows in the sky. Sanchez, freedom, wisdom, now. Not bird, plane, but peace.
S.Y. Boland.
You cracked up a little bit. Yes, yes. Thank you so very much. Oh, how beautiful. Right. One day I will do a haiku workshop on here for you, my dear sister. Okay. And if you really want to see beautiful poems, you can bring your children with you also too, and your children will outdo your haiku. I want to tell you now, right? but the point is that it is what you do before you write the haiku, the kind of atmosphere that you have in a room when you begin to talk, you know, about poetry and the haiku, and then how they produce that haiku, and then how they read it, and then how the reading of the haiku brings such an amazing amount of peace, whatever. And so therefore, you know, many of the classes when I would teach very young people, I would start off with the haiku to make for a peaceful environment, you know, for the rest of the day. It is always good for them to write haiku because the haiku walks in such peace and beauty quite often, right? That at some point that penetrates, you know, the brain and the hands of the person who is also writing that haiku. And it just helps a great deal. It helps them to function in something called peace. And so I thank you so very much, my dear, dear sister. We're so appreciative of it, right? So one day we'll do a hot
We
with
thank you. If everybody can unmute and show some love to our sister, that would be great. John, if you can lead us in happy birthday. Unmute and sing along with John.
Yes.
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to
you.
you.
Happy
Happy
birthday to you.
birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday
Birthday
to
to
you.
you.
Happy
Happy
birthday, Sister Sonia. 90
birthday.
years of
Happy birthday.
Happy
90 years of
birthday.
wisdom.
Happy
Birthday.
birthday.
Oh, wait,
Happy
before we go, Sister Sonia, wait a minute, y'all. 1 second. Sister Sonia, there was a request, the book that you held up, they could not see the title. Can you tell us the title of that book? And one person wanted to know if they can get an autograph, how to get an autograph copy of it. We can't see it because it's blurred. Hold it very close up to your screen and maybe then we can see it. No.
Okay.
Okay.
I can order that a book, but
What's it say? Read the title.
It says Sonia Sanchez.
Yeah. It's just
it's her collected works.
Collected poems, right? But you know what's so funny is that they took poems out. Then it's not really all my poems, whatever. I wanted to say, look, people, put all the poems in, but they said the book got too big, so I said let it go. But I think that
Volume 2.
yeah. There's a picture of it.
So is it simply called Collective Poems by Sonia Sanchez? Is that what it's called?
That is it. Yes, Collected Poems, Sonia Sanchez, right. With an introduction by Toni Morrison, right, yeah.
Oh, wow.
You guys got that? Collective Poems by Sonia Sanchez. Okay. You know what? This has been so beautiful. I know it's late on Sunday and I appreciate your time. I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you all for coming. John, thank you for singing for us. And Sister Sonia, thank you so much for sharing yourself, your inspiration. You have been a shero and a role model and a blueprint for so many of us in so many ways. And, I can only hope to leave a smidgen of the influence on the world that you have done. And thank you so much.
Well, thank you. We all will do that. It's just, by the work that we do, and above all, by the love that we feel for each other. That is key at this particular point on this earth, right? Take care of yourselves, and thank you. Keep up the good work. And don't forget to notify me every time having something, okay? All right?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So when Black women gather, what happens, y'all?
Amazing things happen.
Thank you for another amazing afternoon, and I will look forward to seeing you all soon. I don't know what's next week, but we are going to have a session which you all will find very interesting on the situation with the Black farmers. So I'm really eager for us to talk about that, and we need to talk some more with our white sisters about the election so that we're sure that they get out and vote and do their part, so that we don't end up with another 2016.
No, we
okay.
last time with Biden. Yeah, it'd be good. We get out there, work, vote. Love. And thank you, my dear. Okay, I appreciate it.
For sure.
Sonia,
thank you so much, Sister Sonia. I know you have to go.
Yes.
I'm
gonna. Yes.
Sister Sonia, I have to tell you, I've known Lois, I don't even know how many years now. I have never, ever in my life seen Lois be nervous about anything. So that speaks volumes.
I'm always nervous when I'm around Mama Sonia. It's the idea of being around your shero. People don't understand what that means. And I can only say that
Thank you.
you were
thank you.
there for me.
Mm.
And so it's hard for me
Thank
to be sometimes in the same space with you without of reverence and respect that I can't even express. How sometimes intimidating, but also how invigorating.
Oh, thank you, my dear
Mm.
sister. Never
I'm gonna
intimidated.
reach out to you, Mama Sonia.
Thank you. Please do. Okay.
Yes, I will.
Stay strong, everybody. Vote,
Good
everybody.
night.
Vote,
Good night.
vote,
I'm
vote.
gonna.
Get out. Vote, vote, vote. Come on. Someone should do a major song. Get out and vote. Right. Yeah.
Fannie Lou reminds us that we got to.
Gotta vote. Gotta vote. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Take good care, my
Absolutely.
sisters. and my brothers.
All right.
Okay.
I'm gonna remove you so you can go and enjoy your evening. Thank you. Thank you so, so much. Good night, Sister Sonia.
Right. Thank you. Much love.
Good
Okay.
night. Good night.
Good night.
Wow.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. That was a good program. I hope you all got something out of it. Obviously, it will be posted on YouTube for you to watch at your leisure. I'm going to stop recording. I didn't realize I hadn't stopped recording. I'm going to post it on